All right, guys. So today we're going to be ranking the Big Ten coaches. They're adding 4 new coaches to this conference as far as from an outside the conference perspective. Also, you have some turnover within the conference with coaches getting fired, coaches going to the NFL, Jim Harbaugh. So let's go ahead and get into this list. We've got 18 names here, and there's going to be some controversy here probably, but go ahead and join me in the comment section while we're doing this. Let me know your rankings, who you would move up, who you'd move down, all that good stuff. But number 18, Ryan Walters, Purdue head coach. So from what I've heard, from what I've been told previously, he was not the first guy for this job. This is not who they wanted, but it's who they ended up with. Walter is a coordinator for them when they lost Jeff Brohm to Louisville. Really big loss there. Really, Jeff Brohm, really good head coach, really underrated actually. But they actually wanted to hire another guy on this list. We'll get to him later. But Ryan Walters, first year at Purdue, didn't go very good. So hopefully he can get it turned around, but at the moment, that puts him at the bottom here. Number 17, the most, I'd say, room for growth after this year, David Braun. Had a really good year, first year at Northwestern, but now I want to see what he can do in the next year. With an offseason, what he can do, whether it's transfer portal, whether it's building up his own guys, what can he do? We'll see. They had a really good year this year under bad circumstances, but he took over, led them to 8 wins, really good season. But, can he run it back? We'll see. If he can run it back and get to 8 wins again, he'll definitely move up this list for me. Number 16, Curt Cignetti. All right, I'm really this point up, 17 and up, they really have some pretty good coaches in this conference. Curt Cignetti coming to Indiana from James Madison and has won a ton of ball games at James Madison. I mean, heck, you even look at what he did these past couple of years, being in the FBS, but also previously being in the FCS. The dude has won a ton of ball games at James Madison. I think this is a really good hire. I think Indiana's going to be pretty good. Not super great or anything, but I think he has some good transfer portal pieces coming in that I think Curt Cignetti is the real deal. 15, Jonathan Smith coming to Michigan State from Oregon State. Kind of like a 500 overall head coach, although he's had a stellar last 3 years. So I'm curious to see what he can do here. Like I said, history shows he's a 500 coach, but these last 3 years show otherwise. So if he can keep, those last 3 years rolling at Michigan State like he did at Oregon State, I think he'll be pretty good shape there. 14, Brett Bielema. Okay, so I'm kind of approaching these rankings from as if I'm starting a school tomorrow. I need to hire a new coach. Who am I bringing in? Brett Bielema has had success at multiple schools, Arkansas, Wisconsin, and now Illinois. He's kind of up and down. They might suck one year. They might be really good the next year, really good at Wisconsin, but at Illinois, he's kind of been hit and miss a couple years, 5 wins here, 9 wins here. So he's kind of up and down. 13, Sherrone Moore. All right, so this is another guy that has a lot of chance for growth on this list. I'm really impressed by Sherrone Moore, but want to see what he can do with an offseason running the program. He has done a really good job as the interim coach, has 2 top 10 wins, and I think he was the right hire, no doubt, for Michigan. But that was a pretty impressive roster. I think probably anybody on this list almost could have won a lot of ball games with that team. So curious to what he can do as a head coach. If he can win a bunch of games in Michigan this year, he'll definitely skyrocket on this list, though. Number 12, Jedd Fisch. All right, Arizona coach coming over to Washington. Kalen DeBoer's replacement. And he did a really good job at Arizona this last year. Really got them, like a top 15 team. If he would have stayed there, they're probably a college football playoff team this season. Now, history shows he does bounce around a lot, so fair warning, Washington fans, he's probably not in there for the long haul. He'll be in the NFL before you know it. But he did get them, like I said, to a winning point at the end of his tenure there at Arizona. Wasn't the best starting. Kind of was a struggle to get there, but by the end, he got them to be a top 25 team. Number 11, Mike Locksley, Maryland head coach. I'm a big fan of Locksley. He's had Maryland pretty consistent these last few years, 8 wins, 9 wins. Now, he had Talia Tagovailoa to his little brother as his quarterback during that time. He's gone now. So now I want to see kind of what he can do without that. If he can bring another quarterback in, he could move up or down this list depending on how this season goes. But I think he's a pretty good head coach. Before these last couple of years, not too much success, but I've been really impressed with what he's done at Maryland these past few years. Number 10, Greg Schiano. All right, one of the more consistent coaches. Rutgers is not an easy place to win. Has reached, close to double-digit wins. And I think Rutgers is kind of a sleeper next year. I think they're going to be pretty good, actually. They got a lot of talent coming back. But I'm a big fan of Greg Schiano. I think he's done a pretty good job. Rutgers is home for him. Obviously it didn't work where else he went, Tampa Bay. But Rutgers seems to be the right place for him, and he's a pretty good head coach, I think. Number 9, PJ Fleck. All right, Minnesota coach. He's actually done a really good job. I realize a lot of people hate on PJ Fleck. Has had Minnesota reach double-digit wins. Who else? Not many other people are going to be able to do that. Rows the boat. That's his motto, row the boat. Won a lot of games at Western Michigan before he came here. And I think he's done like I said, outstanding job at Minnesota. Not the best year this past season, but he is capable of reaching that double-digit win. And doing that at Minnesota, pretty impressive, I would say. Number 8, Matt Rhule. All right, so Matt Rhule has a history of turning programs around. Hopefully he can do that in Nebraska. And if he can do that in Nebraska this season, for example, he'll move up this list. He's done it at Baylor. He's done it at Temple. And I think he can do it in Nebraska. He's got a proven track record of doing that. It's just going to take some time, usually a few years, I think is what it takes from him to take it from a bottom seller team to being really successful. So I think he's got Nebraska back on the right track, and I think he's the right hire. I think he's a pretty good head coach. Just really his record, when you look at it, doesn't look that impressive, but the more you dive into it, it is impressive because he's turned those programs around. It doesn't look impressive because, you look at the overall record, he had some bad seasons before he got them there. But I think he's a really good head coach. Number 7, Chip Kelly. All right, so Chip Kelly is on the borderline as far as like getting fired probably this year. He's probably on the freaking hot seat. One sec, let me get a sip real quick, guys. Sorry about that. Just got back from track practice. I'm struggling here. Chip Kelly, though, you think back to his Oregon days. And like I said, if I'm hiring a guy right now, Chip Kelly's going to get you pretty much guaranteed being in that top 25 conversation. Look at UCLA, for example. Didn't win the most games, but always had them in that little bubble, top 30, top 40-ish team. So he's almost going to guarantee you that. He's going to draw some eyes because of what he did at Oregon back in the day. Chip Kelly, I think he's a pretty good head coach. Now, had the times passed him, possibly, but still guarantees you probably a top 40 team, like I said. Number 6, Dan Lanning. All right, a lot of people are probably going to complain about this, Oregon fans. Dan Lanning, hey, all you got to do is prove it to me this year, and I'll believe in you. I think he's done a good job at Oregon, no doubt, but I also think anybody can do a good job at Oregon. Chip Kelly kind of started that train, whereas everybody's going to win close to double-digit games or double-digit games every time you're at Oregon. Still has not had an impressive win for me. That's the only thing with Dan Lanning. All right, they were close to beating Washington this year twice. Didn't beat Washington. Think back to last year. All right, you got the Georgia first game, and that's nothing against them. Everybody was getting destroyed by Georgia. I'm not saying that. But Dan Lanning has a chance to climb if he can get Oregon to the playoff this year. I'll probably get off him a little bit, but still needs to prove a little bit more for me before I can move him up this list. Because Big Ten really has some pretty good coaches, as you can see. Number 5, James Franklin. All right, Penn State head coach. Really probably benefits the most from playoff expansion. You think back to last season, not this season, but last season when Ohio State and Michigan made the playoff. Penn State was probably the 5th best team in the nation, right on that border, just not making the playoff. But they benefit the most from playoff expansion. They've been able to beat everybody but Michigan and Ohio State. And Michigan and Ohio State lately are 2 of the top 5 teams every year pretty much, So I think James Franklin's a really good head coach and should have his team in the playoff this year. But I'm a big fan of Franklin. I've seen a lot of people call for his head as far as they need a new head coach, but I think he does a good job at Penn State. Number 4, Luke Fickell. All right, so Luke Fickell's first year at Wisconsin didn't go as planned, but you think back to the year before they hired him at Wisconsin, he was number 1 on everybody's list when they were looking to hire somebody. You think about what he did at Cincinnati, took them to the college football playoff. Nobody else was doing that. He's the only one to be able to do that, take a group of 5 school to the playoff. And really good hire. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if he ends up being the Ohio State coach one day. I kind of thought he would be a kind of sleeper surprise hire if Michigan decided to go that route. Because, like I said, while Wisconsin wasn't as good last year as hoped, uh, he has a proven track record of being a pretty good head coach with what he did at Cincinnati. Number 3, all right, Lincoln Riley. I know a lot of people are down on him now. I know a lot of people hate on him, crap on him from what he did to Oklahoma. Yes, he left Oklahoma for USC, but the dude's a winner. I mean, he's made the playoff multiple times. I know they had a really disappointing year this year. Heck, I had them in the playoff preseason because I thought they'd be really good. I was way off on that. I thought they'd be a lot better this year with Caleb Williams. I was wrong at USC. But Lincoln Riley, I think, is a really good head coach. Should be a top 25 team every year. And, yeah, I'm really impressed with Lincoln Riley. Got Oklahoma, like I said, to the playoff multiple times. Has had multiple first-round draft picks, heck, even go number 1. How he's had 2 draft picks go number 1. Pretty impressive stuff from Lincoln Riley. Number 2, also, hold on, before I go on, that list is actually going to move up because Caleb Williams is probably about to go number 1. Number 2, Kirk Ferentz. All right, the Iowa head coach. I know Iowa gets boat raced when they play good teams now, but they beat all bad teams. Their defense is outstanding. But Kirk Ferentz is a proven winner. Has reached double-digit wins multiple times at Iowa. Not many people are going to be able to do that. And he's consistent. All right, when I look for this stuff, I look for consistency in the long run. And Kirk Ferentz is that. You know what I mean? Like I said, he's going to beat the bad teams. He's going to beat the mediocre teams. Not going to be able to beat Ohio State and Michigan, lately. That's what's going to happen probably. And Penn State. But big fan of Kirk Ferentz. I realize their offense sucks, but he still wins ball games. So till proven otherwise, he's going to be up in the top 2. All right, number 1, Ryan Day. All right, this one's probably going to get some flack, understandably. All right, I know a lot of people want Ryan Day fired, but my question is, if you do, who the heck are you going to hire at Ohio State? If you do fire Ryan Day, who are you hiring? The guy wins. I mean, you look back at last season, all right? They almost beat Georgia. If they didn't choke away that fourth quarter, they beat Georgia in the college football playoff in that semifinal. He couldn't beat Michigan during this little run they're having right now in Harbaugh. But, I mean, he's won a ton of ball games there. Has them as a top 5, bona fide top 5 team every season pretty much. Even this year with Kyle McCord at quarterback, they're still a top 5 team, arguably, definitely a top 10 team. And, yeah, I mean, almost beat Michigan this year with Kyle McCord. Need I say more? Now, he does have some questionable stuff sometimes with his offense. He's finally going to the straight head coaching route. I saw there's a stat somewhere that no head coach that calls their offense has won a national championship since Jimbo Fisher. So there's definitely something to that. You need to take the head coaching role, take a step back. That way you can coach your whole team, let somebody else worry about the offense. But he's done that. He's grown, I think. And I think he's, looks like the playoff favorite next year, I would say, as far as a national champion. But Ryan Day, I think, in my opinion, is the number 1 coach in the not in the college football playoff, in the Big Ten. And down the line, Lincoln Riley, Luke Fickell, Dan Lanning might can make a run for him, depending on how it goes there at their places, but we'll see. But those are my rankings for the Big Ten coaches. Who would you move up? Who would you move down? Or just let me know your rankings down in the comment section. Let me know. Comment down below. Make sure to like this video. Most importantly,